What it do? Welcome to the Jboyks Sports Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you don't love the content, you can still do those things because you could always help a brother out because you know a brother would always help you out. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our glorious content. You also want to comment because ball is life. I guarantee you I will reply. And then the last thing is you want to hang on towards the end of this video for some other selected videos that we know you will love. With that being said, we have a full slate here today. Got about 10 different topics that we'd like to try and get to. We'll see how quickly we can get to them. We'll see if we can finish the whole thing. It's a lot of different things going on here. But we're going to begin by jumping right into this Mark Sanchez story. And for those of you who are not familiar, Mark Sanchez was a top, basically a top everything in college. I think he played at USC. I mean, he was the man. Everybody knew who Mark Sanchez was. I believe he won a title, maybe two, with them in college. Recently, he was, before that. After that, he went to the New York Jets. Didn't play that well there. Known for the infamous butt fumble, one of the funniest plays of all time. In his career, he actually played a little bit as a backup, I think, for the Cardinals and a few other teams, but he really never hit the true success that people expected him to, but he played for about 8 years, so he was all right. It just wasn't great. And then ever since then, he has recently moved back and become an analyst on one of the sports shows. I'm not sure which one, but he's become an analyst. And unfortunately, though, recently, there was some type of a altercation with him and a 69-year-old truck driver. The most random occurrence I've ever heard of in my entire life. And I really still don't fully understand what happened with this, but we're going to try and dissect it and break it down. So we're going to start by actually listening to a clip from a news station about their interpretation of this Mark Sanchez incident. And then also I'll come back and read a little bit of an article that I found. And then we'll break down exactly what we think is happening and maybe what we think will happen in the future. So let's start with listening to this clip.
We are learning new details about the stabbing of former USC quarterback and current NFL broadcaster Mark Sanchez, who is now facing serious charges. The late-night confrontation between Sanchez and a delivery driver sent both men to the hospital on Saturday.
But Sanchez is the one facing felony charges tonight. Mary Beth McDade live in Hollywood with the details. MB.
Yeah, Mike and Chair, prosecutors say that the area where this altercation occurred has several surveillance cameras, and so they have multiple angles of this incident. Now, we do want to warn you that some of the images of the injuries are hard to watch. Here's video of former NFL and USC quarterback Mark Sanchez clutching his chest after being stabbed during an altercation with a delivery truck driver in Indianapolis over the weekend. TMZ released images of the 38-year-old Fox Sports analyst being put into an ambulance and his alleged victim, 69-year-old Perry Toll, being wheeled on a gurney with a towel wrapped around his head. Toll's family later released these pictures of his injuries.
The probable cause outlines kind of the initial nature of that dispute. We are literally talking about people fighting over a parking space.
Sanchez had reportedly been acting erratically and doing sprints in an alley between two hotels around 12:30 Saturday morning. According to court documents, Toll arrived in his delivery truck and parked it in a loading dock by one of the hotels to change out the hotel's cooking oil. The truck was blocking Sanchez's running path, so Sanchez allegedly approached Toll and told him to move his truck. The driver told police Sanchez smelled like alcohol and was slurring his speech. When Toll didn't move his truck, Sanchez apparently body slammed the driver. Toll told police he then pepper sprayed Sanchez, but Sanchez continued to attack him. So Toll pulled out a knife and stabbed Sanchez, believing Sanchez was trying to kill him. Sanchez then left the alley and sought help at a nearby bar.
Brought him inside, laid him down, and we called 911, put towels over the injuries that he had.
Sanchez, who had been in town to cover Sunday's Colts versus Raiders game, was initially arrested for several misdemeanors. but based on the level of Toll's injuries, is now facing a felony.
We have filed a felony charge, a level 5 felony of battery involving serious bodily injury, which contains a penalty of 1 to 6 years.
Toll also filed a civil lawsuit against Sanchez and his employer Fox. Toll claims he suffered severe permanent disfigurement.
And Sanchez's brother released a statement tonight saying in part that this is deeply distressing for everyone involved, and he remains under medical care for the serious injuries that he suffered. He is focused on his recovery as the legal process continues. Sanchez has pled not guilty. For now, reporting live here in Hollywood, Mary Beth McDade. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Mary Beth, thank you.
So that is, the entire story as far as what we know so far about what happened to Mark Sanchez. Just to read you a little bit of this article here, it also mentions that basically they broke it down for the most part. Allegedly, he body slammed him, then he pepper sprayed him. It also says in this article that the guy tried to climb into his truck, and Sanchez climbed into the truck with him, where the guy was starting to call for help. This article says that he shoved him when he tried to get to his phone. That Mark Sanchez tried to shove them away from his phone, I guess, and that he felt he was in physical danger, and that's when he pulled out the pepper spray. And he said he kept coming, and because he kept coming, he took out the knife and stabbed him. But then also, it says that didn't stop Sanchez, which, Sanchez is probably a bigger guy. I figure, Sanchez is probably, if he's an NFL quarterback, he's probably at least like 6'3", 225 pounds or so. Let me see. How tall is Mark Sanchez and how much does he weigh? All right, so he's 6'2", 232 pounds. All right, so this is not a small person compared to normal people. Normal people are not like 6'2", 232. You're a little bit bigger than the average person, a lot bigger. You weigh more than the average person, definitely. And it said the victim said he got sent flying backwards into a dumpster, falling onto some pallets. And Sanchez was still, even after he stabbed him, still punching him, striking him. And then basically, like I said, he stabbed him. But Sanchez got his licks in, man. For somebody that was getting stabbed, he sure put the hurting on this man. I'm not going to post any of this. You can Google it if you're interested. You saw when they were talking in the report, they were showing you some photos. The photos are messed up, man. I mean, for somebody that got stabbed, he beat the crap out of this guy, man. This 69-year-old man. They have multiple footage, as you heard. They saw a lot of stuff there, so they have a lot of evidence, and they still felt like it was important to press big-time charges against Sanchez, and not just misdemeanors. Based on the severity of the injuries, they're really taking this the full mile, and he could honestly get anywhere between 1 and 4 years in prison. And the 69-year-old man is not just going after Sanchez and his whatever assets he has. He's also going after his employer, okay, which I think is Fox News. So this is a crazy story, crazy. Mark Sanchez remains in medical care. Obviously, if you see the pictures of this older man, he's definitely going to be in the hospital for a while. I mean, he beat this guy down. But I would think when you got stabbed, you got beat down also. But he beat the mess out of this guy. And if you look it up, Sanchez is actually walking away from getting stabbed. So he's still relatively able to move. This older man wasn't going anywhere. And they said he beat him up so bad that there's like a hole in his cheek or something like that. So, I mean, honestly, somebody asked me, I think... one of the people that follows the channel, who I really appreciate. I think the last name is Jet. I gotta take a look at it and remember what my man's last name is, or what his name is on YouTube, because that's mainly where I record these things and post them. It's the primary source of where I post things. I believe his name is Jet. I want to say that's his name on here, but. Either way, I'm sorry, brother, if I got your name. I'll make sure I get it right next time, because I want to show support and love to the people that show support and love to me. But, thank you for bringing this to my attention and telling me to look into it. But, I mean, my thoughts on it are just that they mentioned that he's running back and forth in the alleyway between hotels. He seems disheveled. He smells like alcohol. Right now, until we see all the video footage, it's just hearsay. But I wouldn't think that they would press these charges if they didn't have any type of solid evidence as to what Mark Sanchez did that is messed up and wrong. I mean, he just seems like he lost his mind a little bit or something. Something must have been bothering him. I don't know if he had family trouble. I don't know if he was going through some, fighting some demons. But it sounds like Sanchez was losing his mind for a minute. It's late in the evening or early in the morning, and you're running back and forth in the alleyways, jogging or something. You're mad because this man blocked your pathway. So, now you're fighting him and pepper spray and stabs, and you're beating this 69-year-old man out of his mind. Like, I don't have all the details, but this sounds really bad against Mark Sanchez, if I'm being honest with you. This sounds really, really bad. And it's really sad because I don't know what would make a person do this, but if you think it to your own personal mind of things that have affected you at times, if you've ever been in a really bad mood and you're just kind of mean to everybody, this is that times 1,000. I get going through struggles and life being difficult and you being really upset, maybe having to run some stuff off. I understand that. But to take it out on another person in the middle of the evening for a truck that's making a delivery or a pickup, I mean, what city doesn't have that happen all the time? So we're going to have to wait for more details, but at first listen, this sounds like Sanchez has just lost his mind for a minute and did some very regrettable things. And I think that, and he's got money and everything, and he's famous. But if this old man, if they're already pressing charges against Mark Sanchez and he's stabbed up in the hospital, to me, he definitely has to be in the wrong. And if that means that he's really in the wrong, like I'm thinking that he is, this man, I know it's messed up. And if you see the pictures of the guy, Sanchez jacked him up. But, I mean, he's going to get a payout. That's the good news. The good news is this man will be paid, and that annoying job that makes a 69-year-old man have to come out early in the morning or in the middle of the night, that job is done. He's about to get paid. His family's going to be taken care of. So that, I guess, is the silver lining of this. That's the blessing in the disguise of almost losing your life, I guess. But he's going to be paid and taken care of. That's definite. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Based on the evidence, do you think that Sanchez is guilty? I definitely think he's guilty here. Well, I can't say definitely, but I definitely think he did something that was not right, because I don't understand why they would press charges on him. He had to have instigated this situation, definitely. And I think the older man was just doing his job, maybe blocking in a way maybe he shouldn't have been blocking, but that doesn't give you the right to beat the everlasting gobstoppers out of a person. My goodness. So we'll see what happens from there. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Sanchez is in the wrong, that the old man was in the wrong? Do you think we need more evidence? I personally think we need more evidence, but I'm leaning towards Sanchez doing some things that are just, I don't even know why you would do it. It sounds egregious. Attacking a 69-year-old man is crazy, man. That's diabolical behavior. So we'll see. I don't have all the answers, but we'll see. All right. With that, moving along here, we now are going to discuss Stephen Curry, okay? So Stephen Curry recently had an interview. Now, they asked him about Jonathan Kuminga. For those of you that are not familiar, I recently got back into making my videos, but I was a little bit on a hiatus. And during that time, I think I mentioned it briefly, but things have escalated a little further. Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors is a talent, right? He's got a lot of talent, definitely a good player. When Steph went out last year in the playoffs, Kuminga came in, and the first game in, I think he helped them at least get close to winning against the Timberwolves because he had a monster game. He's definitely talented, but I don't believe the Warriors are doing a good job of making him a priority. They do have Jimmy Butler now. They have a few more pieces, but Jonathan Kuminga should be the future. But we've already seen Steve Kerr fumble this bag, right? Steve Kerr is a habitual fumbler of talent. He got Steph, he got Clay, he got Draymond. In my opinion, they kind of fell into his hands, especially Clay and Steph, because Mark Jackson really coached them up, in my opinion. And since then, I mean, they had Jordan Poole. He let Draymond Wildman Wildebeest punch Poole in the face. That ended that relationship. After they paid him $100 million, and he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Steph. You know, off the bench, he was cooking. They get rid of him because of that incident, and they can't move forward with, you know, the way they wanted to. They pick up James Wiseman, who's a first overall, not first, he was a top pick, top 5, I think, in that draft. And they end up getting rid of him because Steve Kerr can't figure out how to use Wiseman, who seems very talented, but just maybe a little raw and unpolished. But you picked him, Steve. You picked him. Then you gave up on him, right? So that didn't work out. Now it looks like they're possibly going to lose Kuminga. So I just think he's fumbled a few bags in Steve Kerr. But with that said, they asked Steph Curry about this ongoing saga with Kuminga because they're not trying to pay him what they think he's worth. But more importantly, Kuminga believes that he should start. And I believe Kuminga should start too. And Steve Kerr and the Warriors are not really trying to hear that. They're like, oh, whatever we need to do to win. And if I'm Kuminga, I don't want to hear that crap. It's not even just about the money. I want to be a star. I don't want to take $10 million from you now, and I could be making $30 million a year. I'm gonna bet on myself, and if it was me, I would bet on myself. I would get away from the Warriors organization because unless you're Steph, you know, or Draymond, for some reason, Draymond, I have no idea why. You know, they're not looking out for you like that. They just are not gonna do it. So I'm gonna go my own path, and I'm gonna bet on myself. But they asked Steph Curry about it as a leader of the team, and I thought he gave one of the best answers I've ever heard in my life. And Kendrick Perkins actually commented on it as well. But I don't know if Kendrick is in this clip. I forgot what's in the clip. So let's check out the clip, and then we'll come back and we'll analyze what Steph had to say.
You know, when his agent comes out and says, you know, if we get the contract we want, we'll be committed to doing everything we can to win a championship. What is your reaction to something like that? And
I only listen to my teammate. I don't listen to agents or anybody who's speaking on behalf. Like, I hear that from JK. And he'll be committed when he gets here. I just know from man to man, he doesn't want to have to be in the way of anything. So let that situation play out. He can speak for himself.
That's what you call leadership. That's what you call leadership right there. When you're walking into training camp and the only thing that is on your mind as the franchise guy is Mr. Golden State is winning the championship, that's leadership. That's nipping the bud right there and setting the tone. We're not hearing from nobody else. With all due respect, we don't want to hear from your agent, your mama, your brothers, your sisters, your grandma. We don't want to hear from none of them motherfuckers. What we talk about is in this locker room, and who communicates is the players in this locker room. So me and JK, we have an understanding. I've spoken with JK. We're good. I don't care about what his agent and nobody else is doing. We're good. That's a guy that is on a mission to try to win the championship. The Warriors are all in. I believe that. They spoke on it. They're telling the world, hey, this is our last run. They understand the importance of what they need to do, the camaraderie, the training camp, the leadership, the non-distractions. And by the way, the Golden State Warriors, the front office, they understand it. That's why Jonathan Kuminga ain't showing to media today. Hey, let's figure this contract out. Okay, we'll figure it out when we have to trade you by January or we could renegotiate. We need you here.
So that was, at first you had Steph Curry talking and then Kendrick Perkins came in. So this clip did have Kendrick Perkins in it. And I really like this clip because this may be the best answer I've ever heard as far as talking about why a teammate is or is not there and the contract negotiations. I don't think I've ever heard a better answer from a star player and how you handle this situation. Kuminga's definitely being screwed in my opinion. I don't think they're treating him right. If it was me, I'd want to be out. But I don't know. He also came out recently and said Steph is one of the best people that he's ever met, like people. And I can see why you would say that. Steph is a high-class individual, man. He's a high-class individual. He basically said, listen, I heard from my teammate what I need to hear. I don't talk to agents. I don't talk to the media. I don't talk to family members. Basically, I just know the player, and my friend. And I mean, that's the best way to handle it. I think that it gets sticky with contracts because you feel like you're owed something, and then sometimes they're not giving you the due that you're owed, and that can be annoying. And then you have to figure out, like, am I going to sit or am I going to play? And how does this affect my teammates? And I think ultimately, if you keep it real with your teammates, like I guess Kuminga did with Steph, and said, listen, I'm dedicated. I want to play. I want to chase this championship as well. But my money has to be right. I got to feed my family. And I think a good person in Steph understands that. But he also understands that, hey, listen, all I'm asking, get yourself in shape. Make sure you're ready to go. Keep yourself ready to go. Stay on your toes so that when everything works out the way it's supposed to, we're ready to go. And I'm going to advocate for you as much as I can on my side, but just be ready to go. And that is true leadership. The way he answered it to the media is like, he's part of my family, you're not. And so I know what's in his heart. I know what his desires are. Pause, no diddy. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to give you any sound bites. I'm not going to go against my brother. I'm not going to go against the team. I'm going to make sure that everybody understands we're here to win championships and to try to be as good a people as we can in the process of that. And then Kendrick Perkins came in on the backside, pause, no diddy, and basically said some similar things. He's like, listen, this is what has to happen in order for you to be a championship team. You gotta get this contract stuff, nip it in the bud, get it taken care of. But in the meantime, I'm not going to sit here and badmouth my teammate. I understand that he's got to live, and we got a job to do, but, this is how we're going to handle that. You nip it in the bud right away, like Kendrick Perkins said. You nip that in the bud. You let these media people know that, hey, you're not finna be asking too many questions that's going to separate me from John. John knows what he needs to do. He wants to be here, but the team has to, match his needs. And if you think for 1 minute, 1 moment, that Steph doesn't understand the type of player that Jonathan Kuminga is, that he doesn't believe in his skill set, then you're out of your mind. He definitely does. But he realizes this is also a business. You know what I mean? It's a business. People got to get paid. Contracts need to be fulfilled. It's a business. And people want playing time. That's a big thing for Jonathan Kuminga. Again, I don't think this is just about quote unquote money. What I think this is also about is my playing time. Is Steve Kerr going to be a raging, crybaby, liberal lunatic? All right? And when I say liberal, I just mean like he's always up in the air. He's like very loosey-goosey on everything except, everything. Liberal as in he's just liberally running through the world. He doesn't really say much of anything when I listen to him talk. Just kind of, and doesn't take stands on stuff like strongly. Like take a stand and get the player there, man. You messed up the Draymond Green thing, right? Very liberally, like, oh, well, it's in-house. We saw the video, bro. He Falcon punched him. Draymond should have been suspended for like 2-3 months, and you should have kept Jordan Poole. But you messed that up because you're liberal. You did a liberal, I don't want to put my foot down and be a real man type thing, whatever that is. And just giving too many people too many liberties. Like Draymond. The leash is too loose, and he's just doing whatever. And you're doing the same thing with Jonathan Kuminga. You have a talent. You need to figure out how to play him, start him, so that your team can still win and be successful. That's your job, Steve. Be a coach. But he is who he is. And but like I said, I like the leadership here by Steph. One of the best answers I've ever heard when dealing with a teammate in their contract negotiations. Nobody's ever answered it better, right? Scottie Pippen is still mad at Michael Jordan for the way he handled it in the past and also in his documentary. Scotty's still mad at that. So shout out to Steph for learning from his ancestors, right? And and trying to do better. So, I like what I heard from Steph there. I thought he answered it correctly, and I thought that was a good thing to talk about and acknowledge. Let's continue moving forward here. And we're going to jump into we're going to stick with the Warriors really quickly because there's another point here that I think is important with the Warriors. And that point is that when they look at players, I don't like it, but I also respect it. They don't necessarily look for the most athletic guys, right? They let James Wiseman go. They let Jordan Poole go for other reasons. And they may end up losing Kuminga, who's extremely athletic. But they really value IQ. They really value IQ. And they recently, there's this guy, his last name is Spencer. I don't even know where he came from, but he plays on their team. And he be getting minutes. You know, he be getting minutes. And he's not dunking over people. He's not, I don't think he's necessarily balling out of control, but he knows the fundamentals. And apparently, he's a very, very smart basketball player. So you can see the graphic here, but let's listen to what he had to say to support this graphic.
Yeah, I think we value all the same things on a people level, but just as much so on the court. That's why time and time again you've seen this front office bring guys like an Al Horford in here. So I think I said it a little bit before, just in terms of the pieces that we have. I think if you're a guy who can connect some of those dots, but also do some of the other things, like I said, knock the three ball down, there's always going to be a place for you in this league. Unfortunately, there's a lot of organizations that are stuck in the bottom that continue to value length and athleticism and youth over IQ, and they tend to stay in the lottery every year.
So his first name is Pat, by the way. That's Pat Spencer, breaking that down. And I actually think he has a point. So he's basically saying the Warriors value the little things, right? The details. Can you connect the dots? Meaning, do you know where to be on the court? Do you know how to make smart decisions? Maybe you don't have to be the best defender, but do you know how to defend your position based on where you're standing, where you're at, where you're supposed to be? Can you defend that way? Knock down the three ball. And he said there's basically a lot of bummy organizations that value athleticism over IQ. And they tend to stay in the lottery every year. And at first I read this and I was like, dang, that's intense. But the more I think about it, I actually think he's right. I think he's 100% right. You look at teams, for example, like the Hornets, who suck every single year as of recently. And part of the reason that they suck, look, they got LaMelo Ball, right? They got Brandon Miller. They got a few other pieces over there that should be better. Miles Bridges, I think, is still there. Why can't they win games if they have that level of talent? Those three guys are more talented than a lot of players in the league. But it comes down to IQ. Do you really know the game? Do you know how to play with your teammates? Do you know how to sacrifice a good shot for a great shot? And LaMelo Ball is actually one of the worst good players in the league, in my opinion, because of that reason. Very skilled, very talented, has awesome abilities, but he's not going to pass up his shot for a better shot. He passes to his teammates and he gets assists, but they're not like, he doesn't get the assist. Sometimes you got to be the first person to start that pass and then somebody else gets the assist. There's certain people that it's all about them. So they'll dribble to air out the ball so that they can get an assist. But maybe they don't want the hockey assist because that's not counted for their record. And unfortunately, that shows. And when I watch a player like LaMelo play, he's not smart, man, out there. He's just not. His stats are going to be up there, but he's not necessarily playing smart basketball. So to that extent, Pat Spencer makes a lot of sense. The Warriors never have the biggest team, especially after the 2016 loss when I guess Bogut retired, Festus Ezeli was no longer on the team. They had David West, I think, and they had Maurice Spates here or there. But since that point, they really haven't been a big team. And it does, make you question, like, well, why? But they really value IQ. That's what Steve Kerr values over everything else. And I'll give him that. I'm not a fan of Steve Kerr, but I will give him that. He does seem to get players that know what they're doing out there, that know where to be, that know how to move without the ball, and know how to get the ball to Steph. And that's their whole system. And if you can't run that, you're not going to be on the Warriors. But also, you can't really say that it's terrible because they do give themselves a lot of opportunities to win off of that formula. So there has to be something to it based on what Pat Spencer is saying, and the Warriors' overall attitude towards handling things like that. So what do you think? I mean, do you think that it's more important to be smart and maybe a decent athlete that can knock down the three ball, or better to be athletic, no real IQ, have no idea what's going on out there? Which one do you think is better to give you a true opportunity to play basketball professionally and definitely to play in the league? So let me know what you think in the comment section about that one. All right. This next story is annoying, and I really wasn't going to do it, but to be honest with you, I've been trying to get away from touching on LeBron as much. Pause. No Diddy. That was crazy diabolical the way I worded that. But you can't help it, man. He's in the news. He's doing stuff. And unfortunately, he's messed up the media so much that I just feel like there needs to be a cleansing of him. When he's done, sports, specifically basketball, will return to normal, where you could talk about more people than just him. If you type in SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an algorithm on YouTube, there's barely anybody checking for him. You type in Joker, you type in Giannis, nobody's checking for these guys. You know? Type in Luka. Type in Tatum, Brown, whoever you want to do. Steph Curry, there's a lot. I'll say Steph, yes. And KD, you'll get some too. But you type in LeBron or Steph, you get a million things. But Steph, I'll give him this credit, he's not in the spotlight 24/7. He's backed up. Whereas LeBron is always doing something. And this story is the perfect example. As you see this picture, this is so-called, supposedly, the decision 2. Arguably, one of the cringiest things I've ever seen in my life. Ultimately, he did this, he released this video, the first half, on a Tuesday at like noon or some stuff. I don't know. Or whenever he announced it. And so some people, and I'm sorry, man, there's a lot of people that just were not thinking. If your brain really led you to believe that he was going to retire like this, you got to be out of your mind. And this is why, honestly, I'm not trying to hype myself up, but you should be listening to my show. All right, guys, you should be listening to my show. Because I try to keep it as honest and real as possible, but I try to use my brain when I'm talking about these things, not my emotions all the time. Now, I do get emotional about sports. We all do. Okay? I'm not going to say we don't. But you can't be so emotional that you're just running with every story and not using your brain. There was really people out here in these streets thinking LeBron was going to retire. Are you kidding me? Do you know this guy's personality? Have you studied him the way that I have? And I'm not a fan, but you just have to study him because you got to prove these fools wrong when they try to tell you stuff about him that is not true. But I knew there's no way he's retiring like that. You kidding me? For what? What is he just going to retire for? He's a narcissist. Everything is about him always. He's obsessed with himself. His fans are obsessed with him to the point where they can't breathe without him. You know that song with Chris Brown and I forgot Jordan Sparks? Tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. So I feel when I know you ain't there. No air, no air. That is LeBron James' fan base. They can't breathe when he's not there. They can't. So you thought he was just going to go and retire out of nowhere like that? Nah. He's going to get the whole kit and caboodle. He's going to make it a whole big thing. He's thinking right now, how can I do it bigger than Kobe Bryant? How can I make my retirement better than Kobe Bryant's? And doing it last minute like this, wouldn't have done it. And if I remember correctly, I don't think Kobe did he go into that season saying this was his last? Or did he kind of like a few games into it, or 10, 15 games into it, I think he was like, you know what, yeah, I think I'm going to call it a career. I think that's how he did it. But if he did do it that way, then there's no way LeBron James is going to do it now. There's no way LeBron is retiring right now. Honestly, I think we're going to have to deal with him for at least another few years. The real question with LeBron is, where is he going after this? Because the Lakers, we did a video. He's by Felicia off the Lakers. Management grew a pair, and he's done. Where's he going to go is going to be the question. Or are they going to try to blackball him out the league? I never thought I'd see the day where they try to do that, but the owners may decide, like, yo, enough is enough. Let's be done with this guy. It'll be interesting to see. But he wasn't retiring. And basically, he just ended up selling Hennessy, the most ignorant ghetto drink of all time. But I'm not the only person that feels this way. We're going to listen to Stephen A. Snitch the guy we can't trust. I've done a bunch of videos on Stephen A. Smith, and there's parts where I respect him a little bit, but ultimately I wouldn't trust him with a 10-foot pole. The only person that lies more than Stephen A. Smith is LeBron James, ironically. And that's why they don't get along. If you know they don't like each other, and to me it's because they're both con artists. You know, that's one of the reasons. But to me, LeBron is worse than Stephen A. But let's listen to what his arch nemesis had to say here.
This was corny as hell. It was cringy. It was all of that. We know this. You know, you're promoting an alcoholic beverage and trying to give people the impression that this could be your final season, that you might end up retiring. And so, you know, one other person joked and they said, you know what, that's like Jordan. Compare that to Jordan saying, you know, I'm back. What if he had said, no, you know, I'm teasing you, and then it happened to be a Hanes commercial? You know, what if it had been something like that? And that's what this was the equivalent of. In the end, I don't understand why the second greatest player who ever lived, a 4-time champion, a 4-time league MVP, one of the greatest players who have ever lived, would stoop to trying to garner attention for himself with something other than trying to win a damn championship. I want to be in Southern California come June. Are Lakers gonna win? Lakers gonna be in the picture. That's what I care about. I don't give a damn about some Hennessy commercial, especially from him.
So that's Stephen A. Smith speaking on LeBron James and how he's handling this Hennessy thing and doing this whole Decision 2 thing just to sell some Hennessy. It just is crazy to me, and it is cringy because it's like it's unnecessary, man. Stephen A. Smith hit it right on the head. Nobody cares about this, and why do you even need to stoop to this level? Like he's so famous and so rich that he could just make a Hennessy commercial. Like you make every other commercial. Why make it the Decision 2? Like, what? I don't understand. He's the example of somebody that can't read the room. And the thing that makes it cringy and why I'm annoyed with this is because it's just not reading the room. He's trying to poke fun of and make light of something that really made a lot of people mad. That to this day is still annoying to people like myself. It still annoys me because it was dumb back then. Why would it not be dumb now? And at the very least, now you annoyed the people that actually like you too, which is stupid. He just doesn't know how to read the room. For people like me who didn't like him to begin with, you're going to see, you're sitting there like the Decision 2, oh, whatever. Here we go again. He's going to make light of something that was so dumb back in the day. And then the people that actually were his fans that may have thought, oh, he's retiring, he just played them out too. And now they're also like, yeah, that's kind of cringe. Why would you do that? You either live long enough to see yourself see your heroes die a villain, or LeBron was never my hero, but I would like to think that the people whose hero he was are even starting to see like this guy is a cringe factory. He is the worst. Sitting up here and trying to figure out, LeBron's motivations is a daily struggle. Like, he just doesn't do normal people things. He doesn't act normal. And there's a part of me, like, I think I made a video about this, but these guys with no dads, man. And funny enough, if you didn't grow up with your father, there's people listening who probably didn't grow up with their father all the time. But the guys that don't, there are some of us that can get it together that maybe didn't have our fathers 24/7. I did not 24/7. And I still figured it out because I had good people around me, good leadership. My mother was excellent, but then also I had, my grandfather and my grandmother. Like, I just had good people around me. People, if you're religious, where you worship, the people that are around you there's hopefully some strong men in that building, and they can help mold you. You can see how they work with their families. Maybe some people almost adopt you like another son, and you're a part of their family for points in time. That definitely was like that for me. But these guys with no fathers, man, they do strange things. They do really strange things. They're not accountable, and they begin to behave more like a mother than they're more like their mothers than a man. And I swear that's what I see in LeBron sometimes. I'm sorry. I just do. I'm not saying he's a bad father. I'm not saying that there's not good things about LeBron. There's some goodness. Obviously, he's very successful. You have to give him credit for that. But the cringiness, the weird moves, the passive-aggressive behavior, the constant pettiness, the flopping, all of that is feminine to me. It's very feminine. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't know how to read the room, bro. Like, there's a way men move, and we don't move in a certain way. And LeBron, to me, doesn't always move that way. He just does unnecessary stuff. And this is another example of him sucking out all the oxygen in the room, trying to make everything about him, trying to make light of some stupid stuff that he did a long time ago, instead of coming out and being like, you know what, I'm just never going to do that again. I don't even know if I've seen a lot of interviews where he was like, yeah, it was a bad decision. He still probably stands on it. He's no different than a lot of politicians and other people that are annoying because they think they're always right and unfortunately have a lot of power because they have a lot of money and influence. But he's no different than them, overly obsessed with himself, but he just doesn't know how to read the room. He just does the same stupid stuff over and over and over again. And he's only just going to continue to burn more and more bridges. You know, more and more bridges. But whatever, man. I just knew this. I didn't want to talk about this, but it started picking up steam. I see other people talking about it. And I guess I just had to come out and give my 2 cents of how annoyed I was by this. But also, respectfully, don't be dumb, people. And I'm not saying, hopefully none of the people that's listening to this fell for this crap, but you know he wasn't retiring like that. Ain't no way that narcissist is going to walk away from the game like that. Ain't no way. I knew it was going to be some type of trick. And the way he messes around a lot, I was like, yeah, he's trying to play people, so I'll wait and figure out exactly what's going on. That's why I didn't do no immediate video on it. People were stopping traffic, doing videos on it. Even people that I like listening to were like, he's retiring. No, he's not, bro. No, he's not. What made you think that? Do you know who you're talking about? I'll tell you one more thing, guys. Something that made me really angry. I was talking to this guy, and he was like, when it came to LeBron, he was like, and I was like, I could tell. I was talking about LeBron in reference to Kobe Bryant, something with Kobe. I think I was talking about Bronny James and how LeBron got him in the league. And I was like, Kobe wouldn't do that if Gigi and him were still alive. He wouldn't force her into the WNBA. They're like, how do you know? How do you know Kobe wouldn't do this and Kobe wouldn't do that? And I was like, listen, man. Previous behavior dictates future actions more than anything else on the planet. So if you're Kobe Bryant, and you've worked hard your whole life, you've forced yourself to be better, everybody else, you're known as the hardest worker on the planet, you don't want any handouts, you don't want anything soft, no easy stuff. Why would you turn around and decide to make everything easy and cupcake landish for your daughter? Your whole Mamba mentality is about hard work and dying on whatever hill you decide to take on. He has a whole video about, I don't negotiate with terrorists. And he was talking about himself. He said, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe I can do that. No. I already made the plan. I already dedicated myself to it. It is what it is. Why in the world would he decide to go back on that for his daughter? Why would he be okay with watching LeBron James force Bronny James, who's not any better than he was before, right now, into the league? I just don't think he would if he was still alive. And I say that to say, when we're talking about LeBron James, I keep the same energy with everybody. Past behavior dictates future behavior, more so than anything else. People don't normally just change at the drop of the dime. That's why you could tell people something that's true, but they're traditional or they're used to something else, and they don't really want to make a change, and they won't change, even though they know maybe the path is not best for them. Maybe it's not good for them. You know how strong of an individual you have to be to say to yourself, you know what? After however many years, I got to change. I got to pivot. I got to do something else. You know how hard it is for most people to do that? And that's why past behavior dictates future behavior more than anything else. So I knew LeBron James was not going to take his cringy behind and actually retire like that. It's got to be a spectacle. It's got to be bigger than anything anybody else has ever seen. Unless some type of drastic change happens in this guy, unless his heart stars and horseshoes, clovers and balloons become magically delicious like leprechaun cereal. What is that? Lucky Charms leprechaun cereal? He ain't changing. He's got too much money, too much power, too many people kissing his butt 24/7. Too many major news organizations kissing his butt cheeks. He ain't changing. So the next time you see a dumb commercial like this where, oh, no, he's not retiring. It's going to be something grand. All right, he might do it at the freaking Taj Mahal or Buckingham Palace. That's how obsessed with himself he is. When you see him at Buckingham Palace or the Taj Mahal or pick some famous place around the world, somewhere. When you see him there with a whole bunch of posters and stickers and some fake Make-A-Wish kids, maybe then I'll believe that he's actually going to retire. But it ain't going to be like this. It ain't going to be like that. Guarantee you. All right, man. That was annoying. Like I said, I didn't even want to do that story. So let's go back to talking about some other things that, to finish out some more of the show for today with some less cringy things. Let's talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders and his growing fiasco. Now, it looks like they traded Joe Flacco. Dylan Gabriel started one game so far, I think, and he played all right. He did all right. Not terribly horrible. Did they win that game? I don't think they did. Let me just double check. Did the Browns win in Dylan Gabriel's first NFL start? No, they lost to the Vikings 21-17. Okay, so it was close, though. It was a close game. He completed 19 of 33 passes for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Not bad. But if you're a Shedeur Sanders fan, not good, because you're still stuck behind another player. And we did a whole video on Shedeur and how he could have went to the Ravens, but decided not to. And ironically, Lamar Jackson's been out for a few weeks. He's going to be out this week as well. And Shedeur could have been starting, but he decided to go to the Browns, and now he's behind them too. But apparently they didn't name him the backup quarterback. That's what they're saying. So, which is crazy because he's the only other quarterback on the roster. So who else is the backup quarterback? The kicker? Like, I don't know what's going on over there. But as far as this media drama and talking about him all the time, similar to like Bronny James, they're like kind of Nepo babyish, but Shedeur to me is not the same case as Bronny. Like, he was going to be drafted, I feel. But Bruce Arians is an old school coach. He's the last coach that Tom Brady had that he won a championship with on Tampa that one year. And he had some things to say about this Shedeur fiasco, I guess you could say. So let's check out what Bruce Arians had to say, and we'll touch base and analyze that.
Why is the third quarterback getting interviewed? You got nothing to do with the game. Okay, it's all for media clicks, and he's a heck of a personality, but the personality can't come out until you do something on the field. And it's a big week for Dylan Gabriel and a big week for the Browns. I mean, making that transition for him even be available to the press. I don't know why he's doing it.
You tell me. You know how that works. Is that the front off? Is that the comms team? Like, who's putting him out? So we're saying it's not really on him. We have to protect him. He's a young player.
Yep.
Why are we making him available?
Exactly. To me, I mean, there's no sense to have him available. Whoever's running their media relations should turn that down.
So that's Bruce Arians, and he's an old school coach. He's about winning. He doesn't play a lot of games, man. He said Vidya, trying to get clicks on Vidyas. That's how you know that boy old. Who says videos like that anymore? Vidyas? That's wild. I don't even know if that's a Southern accent. That's a what the heck? What year is that accent? For those of you that listen in other countries, if you're in the United States of America, I'm on the East Coast and I'm in the Northeast, okay? If you go on down south, that's what they call it, right? Down south, you're talking about past Maryland and D.C., so Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, all that stuff, Mississippi, Tennessee, those are all southern for the most part. And they have a different way of talking. They sound like us, but they don't, right? They have a twang or some type of an accent where they sound differently. And I don't know where he's from, because Vidya is a crazy one. That's a diabolical accent. I knew what he was saying, but I don't know what he was saying, if that makes sense. But he's old school, man. He's about the wins. What is a quarterback that ain't starting talking to the media? And you got to remember, one thing that I love about football, man, it's not basketball. The players don't run the asylum. There's still some adults in the room. In basketball, there are no longer adults. The Lakers, we got J.J. Redick. He might as well be 2 years old in how he acts, right? LeBron is over there running the show, messing stuff up for everybody. The lunatics are running the asylum in the NBA. Nobody should be talking to Bronny James either. The people, his fans, are like, well, why do you got to talk about him? Why are you bringing him up? Why is the media bringing him up? Why is ESPN throwing his stats out when it's like, oh, he had 2 blocks this game, he just missed 12 shots? But that's okay. Other people have missed 12 shots and become great. Kobe Bryant missed 12 shots 25 years ago. Like, just dumb stuff that makes no sense. And Bruce is basically saying that with Shedeur. Why are we even talking to him? He needs to figure out how to get his butt on the field. Otherwise, we need to talk about the team and what we're going to do to win for those players that are on the field. Nobody interviews backup players. Backup players are supposed to be there for moral support, and if something happens, they got to be ready to go. They're not the ones that should be in front of the camera every 5 seconds. But again, when you're a Nepo baby, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, Shedeur, I don't dislike Shedeur like some people do, but I also don't love him like some people do. I'm neutral. I'd like to see him do well, but I believe he needs to work for it. I don't care who his dad is. You know what I mean? And with Shedeur Sanders, he doesn't need to be worried about talking to the media. He needs to be worried about, how do I become better than Dylan Gabriel so I can get on the field? Because once you're behind a good quarterback, you're in trouble, because they're not going to bench him in all likelihood. That's the one position in the world where, like, there's only one quarterback that starts on every team. And if you're not fortunate enough to be on a team where, if you believe you have talent, where you can get that first spot, if you play behind one of the top 10 guys, you are in trouble. You're not playing unless an injury happens. So I'm with Bruce Arians. I don't know why we're interviewing Shedeur. There's nothing he could tell us about the Browns playing better, because he's not playing. Focus on the people that are playing. Talk to Myles Garrett. Dylan Gabriel is now the starting quarterback. Talk to him. Talk to, is it Ojomo? No, Ojomo's on the Eagles, I think. And Dukwe, who's the tight end over there? I forget. But he's nice. Talk to him. There's nothing to talk to Shedeur Sanders about. So I thought that was interesting that Bruce Arians came out and actually said it. He didn't have anybody's butt cheeks to kiss. He said what needed to be said. The boy needs to worry about figuring out how to start his NFL career. He doesn't need to be doing all this talking. So amen to Bruce Arians and his Vigius for keeping it real in a world where people want to lie and kiss everybody's butt all the time. He's apparently not a butt kisser. And it's good to see that everybody's not out here to kiss butt cheeks. Love to see it. Love to see that. Right? Love to see that. Moving forward, we're getting to our 6th topic of the day. We're going to keep it football. Bill Belichickies, right? Bill Belichick is in a whole heap of nonsense. UNC is, and for those of you that don't know Bill Belichick, even though many of you do, but for those of you that don't, he was the man behind the Patriots' greatness, him and Tom. They won 6 Super Bowl rings together, I think. Greatest dynasty. It's one of the greatest dynasties in the history of North American sports. It's not the best, honestly. I know Michael Jordan won 6 rings, but in football, to win 6 rings is insane. It's insane. And he did it. Him and Tom. But since Tom left, Tom won another one with Bruce Arians, the guy we were just talking about, right after his final season on the Patriots. And then, Bill Belichick has struggled ever since. Then the Patriots got rid of him, and he went over to UNC. And he's started off terrible in college. University of North Carolina, which is a basketball school primarily. The basketball team is usually very good, North Carolina Blue. Ironically, for those of you that really know, that's the school Michael Jordan went to. The basketball team is usually really good, but the football team is like up and down. And you would think, oh, they got Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Oh, they're about to kill it. But Bill Belichick has been going through a lot of stuff lately. He's with this 2-year-old girl. I'm joking. She's not exactly 2. Maybe 22? I don't know. Just way too young for him. He's dang near 70, if not 70. And he's running around with this pretty hot young thing. The girl thinks she's hotter than sliced bread because she's his girlfriend, which is insane. They kicked her off campus, I believe, because she was doing too much. And it's just it's hard to respect Bill Belichick when he's running around with this 2-year-old. Like, it's crazy. And then she's doing like social media things and stuff like that. All this stuff Bill Belichick said to be against, not wanting to talk to the media. He was very staunch, basically like a very stoic type dude who really just didn't give the media anything, didn't give anybody anything for years. Now he's on social media. He's doing cringe stuff with this girl. And it just seems like his coaching career is coming to an end. His team is getting blasted every week. Pause. No bad boy, no Diddy. And it's just not looking good. So now they're saying that there's whispers of him seeking a $1 million buyout so he can either, maybe go to some other team or that he can get back to the media, because he was doing some media stuff for a while, and just, talk about football, break it down from an X's and O's standpoint. But that just seems so weird and beneath him, and it just shows the man's dignity is flying out the window faster than you could fly a kite in the middle of Oklahoma in a tornado. So let's listen, though, because we got some audio from Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn Johnson, one of the great wide receivers that we've seen. He may not be like up on an all-time list, but he was really good for the time that he played. He was tough. But we're going to listen to him, see what he has to say about this Bill Belichick thing, and we'll come back and analyze that.
Bill Belichick didn't talk to Nick Saban before he took this UNC job, and Nick didn't tell him, as his good friend, successful college coach, didn't tell him that this was getting ready to be crazy in college. It was going to be different. Didn't let him know. So now, if it's true, Bill Belichick is talking to officials at UNC about a buyout. You halfway through the season and you want a buyout already? I know this has to be a false report. Can't be real. Because that just doesn't go with Bill Belichick, the Bill Belichick that I know. That just doesn't coincide. It doesn't make sense. Makes zero sense at all. But if true, man, what a monumental up UNC has put themselves in. You had Mac Brown right there. You had it right there. But you chose a better Mac Brown. So much for that. Good luck.
So that is Keyshawn Johnson talking about this Bill Belichick fiasco. I actually wish Keyshawn was still on TV or doing a radio show or whatever. I like Keyshawn. I think he played the game a little bit early, like trying to be safe, but I like Keyshawn. I actually like Keyshawn a lot. I think he keeps it as real as he possibly can. And I like that about him. And he's keeping it real here. I mean, Bill Belichick is one of the great all-time coaches, but what a monumental disaster if in the middle of the season it's going so bad that he's going to take a buyout to leave. It's just a stain. And the guy who was mentioning, Matt Brown, whichever one of those it was, he was the coach for UNC that pretty much did all right. He didn't have a great final season before this year. I think he was like 6-6, but they decided to let him go so they could bring in Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick leaves with this horrible record and the team's not doing well at all, then what was that all for? Now you have no coach. You're going to have no coach at all that really can get the players, there, because with college, it's all about recruiting. Whether it's basketball, football, volleyball, it could be tennis, it could be golf, it doesn't matter. You got to be a great recruiter to get the best players in college. There's no draft. And, Bill Belichick probably isn't used to that. They're used to just drafting people into the league. This is, you got to really appeal to these people. You got to, appeal to parents and let them know that you're going to take care of their kid. All these things that it's just a harder thing. And if Bill actually folds and throws in the towel like this, it's going to be a stain on his career. Keyshawn mentioned that's not the Bill Belichick I know. I think he's doing a lot of things that are not the Bill Belichick that people thought they knew. So if this is true and this actually ends up happening, it's a stain on Bill Belichick. It's a stain on UNC. And I don't think it's really good for football in general. Like part of the kind of the mystique and the overall aura of football, this is not good. But we'll see what happens. I don't really know if it's true or false. We'll see in the coming weeks if this actually turns out to be true. But I tend to agree with everything Keyshawn Johnson said. I tend to agree with everything that he said here because I just think it would be a monumental disaster. But what do you guys think? Do you think Bill Belichick, has Bill been the same to you since he left the Patriots? And really, since Tom Brady left, has he been the same guy? I don't think he's been right since he left Tom or since Tom left him. Has not been the same. So, I mean, what are we doing there? Do you think he's going to be all right? Do you think he's going to leave UNC? Do you think it's just a lie? Whatever you think, hit me up in the comment section. I don't know what to believe at the moment, but I think it'd be a monumental disaster if it turned out to be true. And that's all I can really say about that. That's all I really have to say on that topic. Our next topic is Kevin Durant and Russ. So we did a video last week. Russ finally got some clip of Russ being like, I know he didn't. When Kevin Durant made that move that was insane and left for Golden State, he was like, I know he didn't just leave and go to the team that just beat us. Well, he did. And ever since then, it's been a crazy circus of a ride for both guys, really. And now the Rockets, who is the newest team for Kevin Durant, because he failed so miserably on the Suns last year. Now he's on the Rockets, and people are thinking, oh, the Rockets can do this, they can do that. I'm not so sure. They gave up Dillon Brooks. Some of you who are not familiar with Dillon Brooks, I don't care what anybody says. Dillon Brooks is my guy. I like Dillon. He's fearless. He plays hard. He really cares about defense. He brings an attitude and intensity to the game that a lot of players do not. He reminds me of a Dennis Rodman type. When he's on your team, you're going to be, there's going to be energy. There's going to be some level of focus. When he left the Grizzlies, they haven't really been the same since. I don't know if they've made the playoffs since. Actually, they did make it last year, but Ja Morant got hurt, and then they got smacked out by the Thunder. But I just think he's one of those guys, when he's on your team, he gives you a chance. And they get rid of him, and they got rid of, what's that guy's name? Is it Jalen Green, who played horrible in the playoffs last year? I think that's him. And they bring in Kevin Durant, and they're going to try to rock out that way with Kevin Durant and the rest of the guys they had. Amen Thompson, Şengün. They were supposed to have Fred VanVleet, but Fred VanVleet tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. Now they have no point guard. And because they have no point guard, people are speculating, why not Russ? Russ is still out of the league at the moment. Nobody has called him and decided to pick him up. But the Rockets have no point guard, zero. And so now people are saying, pick up Russ. Which is interesting to me. It is interesting. But let's see what Kevin Durant had to say about them potentially picking up Russ to fill that void.
I asked you about Russell Westbrook, and you were like, shut up. And now the internet is telling me that Russell Westbrook could potentially be a Rocket. Was I right?
I have no clue. I haven't asked anybody about that. I heard that too. I haven't. I don't know. It hasn't been brought to my desk at all. And usually when stuff like that happens, it's pretty loud. But I haven't really heard it outside of
Would that be cool?
Fans on the internet. Yeah, Russ is a legend, and I think he deserves to be in the NBA right now. And I think he deserves to walk out of the NBA on his terms. So yeah, that would be dope. But it's not my decision. It's not my decision. leaving that up to whoever makes those decisions for now.
So that's Kevin Durant speaking on the potential reunion with Russell Westbrook on the Rockets. How do I feel about this? I mean, the Rockets definitely need a point guard. And what we know is that last year, on the Suns, there was no point guard. And they could not win a game. They looked terrible. They had Devin Booker. They had Bradley Beal. They had Durant. There were some injuries, but they could not win even when those guys were there. They were still bad. Somebody's got to play point guard. Somebody's got to know when to get people the ball. Somebody's got to take a back seat at times. As far as looking on the market for a point guard that's going to help lead you there, there's no better choice than Russ. If Russ gets consistent minutes and is allowed to play his game, I'd have no doubt in my mind that he really could be an all-star this year. I really think he could. And I think with Ime Udoka there, in his ear, I think the world of Ime. I don't care what these people say about him, these people that want to hate on him for, his past stuff on the Celtics. I don't really care, man. At the end of the day, I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. I love his attitude. I love the fire he brings. He comes from the Spurs, so that's a top-notch organization. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Greg Popovich, I got to talk to you guys about that another day. You'll probably be like, what? You don't like Pop? I don't like Pop, me personally. And I'll have to do a video as to why I feel that way. But I like Ime, and I think he could. I think he's man enough and strong enough to lead any group of men. Because I don't think he plays that. I don't think he plays. He don't play that crap. He knows what he wants. He knows what he wants to do, and he turns around organizations. I think you give him Russ, and with the talent they already have, and that makes the Rockets tough. If he could coach him into playing successful, smart basketball, they could be tough. I really believe that. Now, what about the bad blood between the two? I don't think the two really like each other right now, but I don't think Kobe and Shaq always liked each other. I don't think, based on what we're hearing, Scottie and Mike didn't always like each other. There's countless championship teams where everybody didn't love each other all the time. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, who we were just talking about, apparently didn't love each other all the time. But if you want to win and you want to win big, you do what you have to do. And if you're Russ and nobody's knocking down your door like that, you have the potential to start and play with talent. The Rockets are talented. But if you're putting Amen Thompson and Russ on the floor at the same time, that's two guys that really are not known for their shooting. Although Russ has been better at times, they're not really known for their shooting. So you'd have to work that out. But, I mean, it could be tough. I think it could be tough. And I think the Rockets should strongly consider it. I don't like Kevin Durant. I'm not really a big fan of his. He gets on my nerves a little bit. But with that said, he's still one of the best players we've ever seen. Easily. And you add Russ, who's one of the best players we've also ever seen, even though he's had his issues. I think that becomes a tougher team. Because I still think there's things that Russ does that are hard to defend. And he can energize his teammates. You just have to get rid of the dumb plays when it comes to Russ. If you can eliminate some of the dumb plays, I mean, at one point, him and Durant were dang near unstoppable. So, we'll see what happens. What do you think? Do you think they'll give Russ a chance? Do you think Russ deserves a chance? Do you think with a chance, Russ could make this team really good? You think Russ could return to all-star form with the minutes? You think Durant will actually be as cool with it as he's pretending to be, at least in this interview? Maybe he really is cool with it. I don't know. So, whatever you feel, get funky in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. You let me know. All right? So we're going to leave that one there. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is Kendrick Perkins recently came out and said some stuff about AD. Now, AD is coming into this season. He was hurt at the end of last season. They lost in the play-in. They lost Kyrie Irving. He tore his ACL, I think. And so now they've got to come back and figure this thing out, right? And I don't really know. I don't know why AD. Well, he came out. So let me start again. AD came into this season. He is way bigger than what he normally looks like, in my opinion. And I think other people visibly can see that as well. And so he's bigger than he should be. And he gave this reason why, and Kendrick Perkins is like, what are we talking about here? And so if you look at, let me see if I could find this graphic. Sorry, the graphic's already up. What am I talking about? Let's take a look at this graphic. When you look at this graphic, let me read it. It says, you have a rookie in Cooper Flagg who is your number one pick that's coming in. And what kind of example is that to show him? And I think Kendrick is right here. Anthony Davis, when asked about his weight, was like, oh, well, I usually come into the season a little bit heavier because I lose weight so easily. So I need to have some weight on me so I don't lose more, so I can, bang around. And I'm like, bruh, I don't know how much I buy that. I don't know if I remember ever seeing Anthony Davis look more husky, more thick. Pause. No Diddy, no Bad Boy, no like whoa Black Rob. He looks thick. Again, pause. Right. And I don't know if I've ever seen him look this big, but he's like, yeah, I usually come in a little bit bigger because I don't want to, be too skinny for the season because I'll lose weight and blah blah blah. All right, whatever. I tend to agree with Kendrick Perkins here. You have a rookie player in Cooper Flagg, who's your number one pick. You got to set a good example, man. You can't be taking no shortcuts, AD. I'm not saying it's the end of the season already. It's not like it's the end of the world, but this idea that you'll get into shape that's why you get hurt and different things like that. You got to be in shape, man. You got to be in shape from day one. Now, I expect the Dallas Mavericks to be a tough team this year. They are stacked. You understand? Stacked. When Kyrie Irving comes back, they will have so many weapons, it will be disgusting. They have size. Pause. They got talent. They got athletics. One of my friends, that's what he says. He doesn't say athlete. He doesn't say they're athletic. He says athletics. They got athletics. My boys from the South. All of those things, in my opinion, give you the ability to be a really tough team. And I think AD is actually the best overall player in the league. When you talk about offense and defense, I don't think anybody does it better in combination than him. The only people that you could argue are Giannis, Jason Tatum, maybe, or Brown, Jaylen Brown. I don't know if you could argue that for any, even the other superstars. I don't think you can argue. He's at the top. So, but you got to be a leader. On this team, Kyrie's going to be out. It's going to be you starting. You got to be a leader. And I tend to agree with Kendrick Perkins that you need to make sure that you lead in every way, shape, or form. You got to be better than yourself normally. You're not with LeBron no more. You're no longer under his protection or his beatdown. Either way, it could go either way. You got to be the guy. The media is going to be talking to you now, sir. That team's going to live and die as you live and die. So I don't like this start from AD. I tend to agree with Kendrick Perkins. I want to see more. I've grown to like AD as a Laker fan because I do think he's extremely talented. I still think his mindset is still weak, though. And what I want to see from here to the end of his career, how tough can you actually be? There's very few players that have ever been more talented than Anthony Davis. I'm going to just keep it a buck. He's one of the most talented players I've ever seen. Like, seriously. And you're talking about, we've seen Tim Duncan, Dwight Howard, Shaquille O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace, KG, Giannis, and I'm talking about bigger guys. Chris Webber is amazing. Like, there's so many. Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. We've seen all these great centers, power forwards. He's right there with him. Talent-wise, he might be more talented than some of the guys I just mentioned. You mix in the size with the ability to have guard skills, the defensive prowess, the rebounding. He's good at everything. But it's the little things, Anthony Davis. It's the little things. It's the little things. So I'm going to be watching him very carefully this year. I don't like this start. I agree with Kendrick Perkins to set it for the 78th time. But their team should be good. There should be, even with Kyrie out, they still got Klay Thompson. They got Cooper Flagg. They got Marshall over there. I got to think about, they got D'Angelo Russell. They got Lively. They got Gafford. They got a squad, man. They got Max Christie. There's no reason that they shouldn't be nice. Speaking of which, Matt Christie, I'm expecting a big year out of you. I don't care if Cooper Flagg is starting over you or you're starting over Cooper. You can still have a big year just off the bench because I think he's that good. So we're going to see what happens. But Anthony Davis, let's get it together, man. Get in shape and be about that life. You're a Kobe guy. If you look on his tattoo right here, there's an 8 on his arm. If that's not Kobe, I don't know why it's there. I know he's a Kobe guy. I'm 100% sure that's for Kobe. So, Mamba mentality. He used to get mad at Shaq for not being in shape. Everybody wants to talk about Mamba mentality, myself included, but you need to look at yourself, check yourself, and say, am I really Mamba? Is that Mamba-like? Come on, Anthony. Let's get it together, sir. Get it together. Get it together. Get it together. Baker Mayfield. We're going to talk about Baker Mayfield again. My last video did all right on Baker. And so I said, you know what? Maybe Baker's got some fans. He's making a fan out of me because I like a lot of what I'm seeing from Baker. I do like a lot of what I'm seeing from Baker. And he recently did a sit down. He sat here. He talked about, you know, some of the struggles that he went through because he wasn't always what we see now. Now he's getting a lot of praise and adulation, but he went through a period of time where, you know, he was also part of the Black Sheep Brigade. And one of the reasons that I really appreciate this is because he talks about his relationship with God and how that helped him to be more present even for his family and how his family helped him to achieve greater heights. Because I think that's important, you know. And again, I'm not on my channel forcing everybody to be religious. I'm not going to sit here and force everybody to love God. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to tell you that I'm going to take my opportunities to tell you why you should consider it. Because he's done so much for me. He sustained me. He sustained my family. And I do think that anytime you hear somebody, especially as privileged as Baker, come out and say, listen, God's helped me too. I like to hear these, affirmations of faith. Because, you know, without God, none of these things are possible. And the faith and the trust that you put in him when times are tough and things aren't going well, help you to get through things. It's the difference between people that delete themselves or people that fall apart, that become lifelong victims or don't believe in themselves. You know, there's an extra strength that comes from believing in something bigger than yourself, in my opinion. So I don't want to overly preach, but let's listen to what Baker had to say about how his relationship with, you know, by taking it back down to the basics and believing in something higher than himself, helped take him out of a dark time.
God taught me a lesson. He had to take my career down to the studs and make me realize that I'm more than a football player. There's much more going on in the game of football. And for me to see that, I had to hit rock bottom. And it wasn't just football, it was in our marriage. We weren't doing well at all. At this time, we were trying to have kids, wasn't going well. And so that was when we dove into PAO, but I remember a couple of years ago we talked about there's that 99% of you that you can put on a facade as a guy, you put on the mask, but behind closed doors, who are you really? What are you hiding? Are you being vulnerable? And until my career got stripped down, I was hiding a lot. And then for me to climb back up, I had to dive into the Word and accept the grace. And that was something that was really, really hard for me. And when I eventually did, I started to see things from a different viewpoint. And that was the biggest change in my life. And that's a couple of years ago. And I think the best part that I've learned throughout the process is it's constant work. It's not like you just get baptized and you're saved. You have to continue to work because the enemy is out to get you. And that's what I thought that, okay, once I achieve something, I can just move on. No, this is something that has to be part of the daily routine, and you have to make your priorities align with that. And so it's been a journey, but it all happened for a reason, and God's timing was perfect, where Tampa feels like home for me now, but that's because of what I built the foundation on and what my wife and I, Emily, built our foundation on, and that's our faith. And it's been such a special ride to let God take us through that.
And so that's Baker Mayfield talking about, the transformation in his life. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Baker Mayfield was drafted to the Browns. I did a video on it most recently. You can look through and just go to the Baker, just type in Baker on my channel and you'll see it. And he was having a tough time and he was doing terrible and nothing was going right for him. Right now, he's probably an MVP candidate in the NFL. He's probably the number one MVP candidate in the NFL. He's playing really good, doing really, really well. But it wasn't always going that way. He went through some dark days. He failed basically on the Browns, and they also failed him. He mentioned he wasn't doing well in his life. He wasn't doing good at home. Things were not going well with his wife. He was trying to have kids, and just things were rough, man. He went to the Panthers. They had him playing on defense, quarterback. It was crazy. Then Tampa, he got over there, and he's come back to life. He's been brilliant. And he says here that he's given a lot of it to God. He was able to break himself down with Ja's help and, build himself back up. And just by doing the little things, probably, he said he was hiding. He was hiding what was really going on, who he really was. And that may sound kind of vague to some people if you've never gone on a journey like that for yourself. But there's times when you're doing stuff without thinking and you're really hiding from the real things in life that you've got to improve upon. And that doesn't change if you have money. And it may change too if I'm famous and people look at me in a certain light. To those people that see me in that light that are not used to me, then I may look great to them. I may be an idol worth worshiping to them. But at home and in my real life, to my friends, my family, my parents, hopefully these people are not butt kissers. They know who I really am. They see my real pain points. They see where I really need to improve, where I really need to mature, where my real flaws are. And those flaws could be anything. Maybe I don't spend enough time at home or take advantage of my, the times I can spend with my wife or my kids. Maybe I drink too much. Maybe I have a drug problem that nobody knows about. Maybe I just am distant. I know people that have lived in the house with their fathers their whole lives and never had a relationship with them. There's so many different things. Maybe you're not good with organization. Maybe you're not prioritizing things well. Maybe you're giving too much time to people that don't deserve it. The list can continue. It can go on. Maybe you believe in material things more than you believe in your spiritual self. All of these things can be an issue. And without getting too much into detail, because Baker didn't give us everything, but he gave us enough so that we understand there's a right and a wrong way. And for his journey, he wasn't doing things the right way. And it was affecting his play on the field even. Now, there was some outside forces I'm sure that he couldn't control. But like any strong man that wants to be his greatest self, you take it to God in prayer. And then you start with yourself. And if you're not a spiritual man and you're not into praying, understandable. I'm just telling you that I am. And that somebody like Baker is. And if you haven't gotten to that point yet, understandable. But all of us should be able to understand that you start within first. You start with yourself. You hold yourself accountable for why you're not where you want to be, for how am I going to get to where I want to be? Am I going to quit? Am I going to give up? Start with you. And it may be painful. It may hurt a lot. You may be wanting to start a business and the business is tanking. Maybe that's not the business for you. Maybe it is. You need to hang on. How do you know? It's hard to know. But start with you. And if you really want to take it to the next level beyond you, start with prayer. And then start with you. Leave it to God. Believe. Don't be anxious. And hopefully it'll work out. Because usually it does. There's usually some way that you can be successful. But you also got to cleanse yourself of all the nonsense. I'm not going to go into detail with all of the nonsense that maybe you need to be cleansed from, but I mentioned some of those things, and Baker gave you hints at some of the stuff maybe that may have been hindering some of his blessings. The more clean the life is that you lead, the easier it is to figure out what direction you need to go in, where you can fix your mistakes. If you're all over the place, if you're a wild man out there, if you're a forever bachelor, dealing with a whole bunch of different types of women, it's going to be tough. And just something to keep in mind and note, the richest men in the world are married. Now, I'm not even saying they're honest to their wives. I'm not saying they still don't have a lot of problems. There's something to this marriage thing, man. So if you're a dude out there trying to figure out why is it that my up is down and my down is up, one of the reasons may be, are you chasing girls? Are you even looking to find one that you can spend some time with? That can be your backbone, that can be your peace when the world is beating the crap out of you, because that's what it does to us men. It beats us down. Beats us down, boy. Right? I can't imagine chasing a million different girls right now at this point in time in my life. I would have no focus. So, I just thought that was a good tidbit. I really like Baker Mayfield. I really do. I think he plays with a confidence and a bravado, but he also has a respect in something bigger than him. And I've been following him more and more lately, and I like Baker. I really do. And I wish him the best, just not against the Eagles. I hope every time he plays us, he plays horrible. To be a little bit blasphemous, I hope God does not help him in those games. I'm going to be honest with you. That sounds crazy. Like God cares about football more than he, cares about the person. But, yeah, I don't want him to play well in those games, but I wish him well every other time. We got two more things left here, guys. Two more things. We got two more things here. We have Wemby, and we got Tom Brady with the 5 wide receivers, top 5 wide receivers. So we're gonna knock that out, and let's end on basketball. Let's go Tom Brady first. Let's go Tom. So Tom Brady recently came out and talked about his top 5 wide receivers. We literally just did a video on my guy Michael Irvin talking about his top 5. And that's why these things are fun, is because everybody kind of has their own version. Usually some of the top guys are there because everybody agrees with them. But even in the top, there's usually some variance between even other great players and who they think deserves to be there or who doesn't. I actually thought Michael Irvin's list was really good. He mentioned a few people who I didn't expect, which I appreciate. And let's see what Tom Brady's top 5 is.
I'm sure every headline's going to be who was left off. With that being said, Jerry Rice, number 1. The consistency, the durability, the dependability, the moments in the big-time games, the touchdowns, the yards, the route running, the practice habits, the tone setting. He's like, if there was a perfect football player, it's Jerry Rice. Played with different quarterbacks, left-handed quarterback, right-handed quarterback, caught the ball deep. I think the mark of great receivers are, can you catch short passes, intermediate passes, and deep passes? Can you get open in man and against zone? Is there a good run after catch? Can you go in and run block? Those are all aspects that make a great player. Number 2, Randy Moss. I don't think there's a receiver in history that could scare a defense the way Randy did. Randy would take off running and the DBs would turn and run as fast as they could backwards. And there were routes where he was tracking a DB down and I would think, okay, cut it loose, make a great throw. I would let it go, and Randy would end up 7 yards behind the defensive back. 3rd, Larry Fitzgerald, the productivity in really an environment where it really wasn't probably the best football environment. He played with a lot of head coaches, a lot of quarterbacks. He was one of the top 3 most consistent players ever to play. We would always say there were 3 things the receiver should do. Get open, which Larry did that in the slot, on the perimeter, all parts of the field. Get open, catch the ball was 2. He caught the ball better than any receiver ever played. He had more tackles on interception returns than drops. That's one of the greatest stats I've ever heard. And the last thing was run with it and do something with it. And Fitzy broke a lot of tackles, was good in the red area, was good on third down. He did it all. If you're looking at the greatest tight end in history, it's Rob Gronkowski. He catches the ball as well as the top 3 or 4 between Kelsey, Gates, Gonzalez, and Gronk. I think those are probably the top 4 pass-catching tight ends. But Gronk was without a doubt the greatest run-blocking tight end the league's ever seen. Where if I name those other 3, it just wasn't their strength. For Gronk, we would run the ball behind him because that was the best matchup on our team that day. And Gronk embraced blocking better than any player that I ever played with. I think those are my 4: Rice, Moss, Fitzgerald, and then to me, the greatest tight end ever, Gronk.
Well, first of all, let me excuse myself here. This is not the top 5 wide receivers. He named 3 wide receivers and a tight end. So I don't. Why did it say top 5 wide receivers when I clicked on this? I don't know. Either way, let's just dissect what he actually talked about. I mean, Jerry Rice is Jerry Rice. For those of you that don't know Jerry Rice, you don't know what you're talking about. You got to Google this man. He's the Michael Jordan of football, right? But because I don't think football is a global sport, that's why you don't hear Jerry Rice's name like that. But he's that level of a football player. I know they talk about Tom Brady being the GOAT, but football is weird because there's different positions and there's different sides of the ball. So to me, it's hard to name one guy that's just a straight up GOAT. I think it's easier to go by position because it's such a position-based sport. I'm not really a heavy soccer fan like that. I watch World Cup a lot. But outside of that, I'm not watching it year-round like some of my friends are. So I don't really have the overall knowledge, but it's another sport that has a lot of different positions, and I'd be interested to know if that factors into who is actually the GOAT. You hear Ronaldinho, Pele, Messi, Ronaldo. You hear those names all the time. Did they play the same position? I'm not really sure. I don't really I don't follow soccer hard enough to be able to have the answer to those questions. So if anybody does and you want to comment on that, that'd be dope. But Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver. I mean, you can't really go against him. The longevity, the skills. Deion Sanders is arguably the greatest football player of all time too, and he used to get Deion. He used to cook Deion, and Deion used to cook him sometimes too, but he was not afraid to take on Deion. Deion Sanders was one of those guys out there where you don't throw the ball to Deion Sanders because he could pick you off and run it all the way back for a touchdown. And quarterbacks knew that, so they avoided him. But when Jerry Rice was out there, you're still throwing the ball to Jerry Rice because Jerry's that good. You know Jerry's going to put them in a position, he's going to put you in a position where, you know, it's hard to defend him. He was that good. He had great hands, good speed, excellent route running, excellent route running. It just had it all. Could do everything. Could block if you needed to. It is anything you needed him to do. Jerry Rice, hands down. Played great in 3 different eras, 3 different decades. He was like LeBron before LeBron, and he did it in football. Played till he was almost 40 in football. He might have been 40. You know how hard it is to do that? Please, man. Then he mentioned Randy Moss. Randy's a monster, man. I mean, that 7-yard beat, he said he would throw the ball and then Randy would end up being 7 yards behind the defender. They would just turn around and just straight start running. That's not how you're supposed to play cornerback. You're supposed to run with the receiver. He was so fast and so disgusting that they had to turn around and just run as fast as they could. And if you watch Randy Moss, it didn't look like he was running that fast. It looked like he was jogging. Everybody else was running for their life. It looked like he was jogging, and they couldn't catch him. He was 6'4", 6'5", crazy speed, but it looked easy. Great hands. And I mean, he's a freak of nature. Just a freak. Absolute freak. Then he mentioned Larry Fitzgerald. Now, Michael Irvin mentioned the other two, Rice and Moss. He didn't mention Larry Fitzgerald. I didn't know that Larry Fitzgerald had more tackles after interceptions than drops. That's crazy. That's just insane. Because for those of you that don't truly understand football, for me to break it down to you is like this. Wide receivers catch the ball. So the quarterback throws the ball to the wide receiver. What they're saying is, out of all the times that a quarterback threw a pass to Larry Fitzgerald, he dropped it so little that the quarterback threw more interceptions than he had drops. And when the quarterback threw the interceptions, he tackled the guy that got the interception on defense more than he had drop balls. That's insane. That's an insane stat. To put it in simplest terms, if the ball came his way, he was catching it. And I can't deny that. He could definitely get open. He was a bigger type receiver. I never thought his speed was blinding, but he had one of the greatest Super Bowl plays I've ever seen. When they went against the Steelers, he caught a pass up the middle on a slant, took it all the way to the house to bring his team back into the game. And that takes speed. And I never looked at him as like a speed guy, but he outran some people. The great Troy Polamalu, for those of you that are more, knowledgeable on football, the great safety on the Steelers, he outran him to get that touchdown. You don't just outrun Troy Polamalu. He was a freak of nature. So, Larry Fitz, and he called him Fitz. His last name is Fitzgerald, so it's Larry Fitzgerald. He was like that. And then he mentioned Gronk. I mean, what can you say about Gronkowski? Gronkowski didn't want to be the best tight end of all time, but he's arguably the best tight end of all time. And when I say he didn't want to be, I really think he just wanted to live his life. He doesn't look like he takes himself too seriously. He's huge. Pause. But he just seems like somebody that lives their life and enjoys it. And he wasn't out there trying to be the best, but he just is. He was nice, man. Gronkowski, there wasn't a lot you could do with him. He could run after he catches the ball. He could run. He could get open. He was just bigger, so you could throw it anywhere. And he could block, unlike a lot of tight ends. Tight ends are usually, the new age tight ends like to catch the ball. That's what they like to do. They like to catch. They don't really like to block. And when you say block, you're blocking for the run game. That's not really their thing. But Gronk did all of that. And so, and you're talking about catching passes, he's up there. He's arguably up there. And there was no fifth. So for me, I'll just throw it in there. I'm always going to go Terrell Owens. To me, that's the holy trinity of wide receivers, and you can pick your other two. And it's not that the other guy, like Larry is nice, but Terrell Owens was something different, man. Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Jerry Rice was something different. So I'll just throw in Terrell Owens, and you can't be mad at me for that. If you've seen him play, you understand what I'm talking about. Dude played like a monster in the Super Bowl on a broken leg. Broke his leg, healed it back. Broke his leg right before I think the playoffs started. Came back a month later, played a real football game, and didn't break his leg again. I don't even understand it. It makes no sense to me. That's the type of freak he was. Still has a six-pack to this day. Just a freak. Crazy long arms, great hands, just a freak. So now we're on to our last topic here. We're going to talk about that man, Wembanyama. Wembanyama. Let me stop. Wembanyama, okay? Now, Wembanyama is he's quickly growing into one of my favorite players. I don't like the Spurs, but what I like about Wemby is he seems like an old school type player, but again, he's not from this country. For whatever reason, guys that are not from this country, I tend to feel attached to more because they're more human beings. They're not saying stupid things like get the bag, and it's not they're not showing that they don't care about the game. Now he sits out a lot. That's one thing. Like he got to get on the court, but that's also a product of the Spurs, which is so annoying. That's why Greg Popovich gets on my nerves. One of the reasons is because all this daggone load management. He's one of the architects behind it, and it came back to bite him in the butt cheeks when Kawhi Leonard decided he wasn't going to come home one night after hanging out with his friends. But yeah, like I didn't like that from Pop. Wemby looks like he's going to be sitting out some games here or there whenever there's a little injury. But hopefully not too much. But I like what I hear when I hear him talk. Let's listen to what he had to say about, passing up good opportunities for great opportunities.
Of course, I probably turned down a shot I could make with my eyes closed. But that was to get one of my teammates a shot he can make in his sleep. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not because you can make a shot that you have to take it. And we have to find, especially when there's time in the clock, we have to find the best option possible.
So that's Wemby talking about why he would pass up a good shot for a great shot. He said I could pass up a shot I could make with my eyes closed for a shot that my teammate could make in his sleep. So, I mean, I've never heard anybody phrase it that way. This tells me two things. One, the most obvious, is that he's really listening to the coaching of the Spurs, because if you know anything about the Spurs, one of the things that made their team so great is the ball movement. It was like nothing you've ever seen before. It's hard to guard when everybody's involved and everybody's getting an opportunity to touch the ball, and it's going to the person with the best chances to make the shot. It's very hard to defend that. The second thing is that his English is getting better, because how did he think of that in English? And I don't know any French. Anybody know French? Oui, au revoir. Is ciao French or is that Italian? I don't know. I sound ignorant right now, but yeah, I didn't get that far in French. I speak some Spanish, but I don't really speak French. I took it though in school, but I decided to stick with Spanish. Really wish I would have learned both languages and took them both seriously, but as a kid, you just want to live life, play video games, and not think about the future. But I like what Wemby's saying here, because at the end of the day, they've got a stacked team. And if the team stays healthy, they got a lot of talent on that team. And it'd be very interesting to see if they can get De'Aaron Fox to buy into that mentality as well. If you can worry about getting other people better shots and play some defense with Wemby, who's going to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year, it's probably a lock-in, because he would have probably been Defensive Player of the Year last year, but he got hurt. It's probably going to be a lock-in this year. I think if they can move the ball on offense, he's shown that he's ready to take on a lot of leadership. He sounds good. He sounds like he's staying out of the clubs. He's not trying to mess around with loose, disgusting women. It looks like he learned from Anthony Edwards with all this baby mama drama. He seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's primarily focused on basketball. Comes from a good family. The Spurs are definitely going to take care of him. He's got Tim Duncan as a mentor. I mean, the guy, there's no reason he shouldn't go down as one of the best players of all time. The only thing that could hurt him is if he gets hurt. He's the same size as like a Yao Ming. And Yao Ming made the Hall of Fame in part because he's from China, but also because he really was that good. If you watch Yao Ming, I mean, he wasn't guarding the pick and roll good, I don't think, but he was very good, very skilled, and huge. Made Shaq look small at times. Like, Yao Ming was that guy. He just got hurt. Now, if Wemby can avoid getting hurt, he's Hall of Fame. Greg Oden was another one who, unfortunately, the injuries caught up to him. But, I mean, Greg Oden, when he was healthy, was a monster. But it's these injuries, man. With these big guys, they get injured. More so than even the other little guys. They get injured. And I say little like they're not like 6'6", 6'3", 6'4", 6'6", 6'8". I'm little, not them. But I mean, compared to other NBA players. So we're going to keep our eye on Wemby. We're going to do a lot more Wemby videos this year. I like what I'm seeing from him. I think he's going to be tough. And one of the things to keep in mind is that for me, I really want to talk about stories that are not just about the big time guys. And that's why I'm doing a full podcast now, because I want to talk about all types of different stories. I'd like to dissect the game a little bit more too. I have to figure that out, because I think I have a lot of good thoughts on just dissecting plays on the floor in the game. But what's important, I think, is to tell the stories of a lot of different people. And that's what I think is going to be different about my channel versus a lot of others. I'm not always going to stick to Steph Curry and KD and LeBron and Kobe every day. Kobe's my favorite player, so you are probably going to hear a lot about Kobe. I'm sorry. I can't deny that. But as far as a lot of these other people, I'm going to try to even it out, man. There's so many really good players in the league, and I think the league is going back towards playing more defense. And I hate to say it, but they're leaving the American players behind and moving forward with other guys, which is what we need to do right now until Americans get their stuff together. America used to stand for stuff. We used to have morals, principles, a backbone. A lot of our American players are, I'm sorry, but they just make a lot of bad decisions. The only one that I really think is a great mentor and leader that's worth being really followed is Steph. I don't like the path just overall. Now, Steph, recently, and actually I meant to do a video about that, but I'll do that separately. I know Aisha is getting some flack, or Steph's getting flack for the stuff Aisha is doing. And some of it, I understand where it's coming from. But outside of that, I mean, I feel like Steph is one of the last people that's doing it the right way from America. And I told you, he was voted the best American-born player still playing. You know, I feel like he's the gold standard for Americans that are left. But until the rest of America gets on board, the foreign players are going to take over. They don't got baby mama drama the way we do. They're in families. You know, they got a more stable home life. They don't seem to be going after the bad chicks all the time, ruining their lives that way. You know, and they're not, it's not all about money to them. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joker are not just about money. You understand? And that's why they can be that good on the court, partly, in my opinion. That's why they can work that hard. People make jokes about Joker and his little ponies, but at the end of the day, life is bigger to him than just basketball. You know? But he wants to win when he's on the court. He wants to play hard. He wants to get everything he's got. But he also values being a person. He values being home in Slovenia, around his people, where he can live a normal life, where he's maybe not idolized so much. Like here. We got work to do in the States. A lot of us. Sports is just a microcosm of life, but, you know, we got to get back to being good people again, man. Focusing on the right things. Focusing on being good teammates. You know, focusing on having families. And it's affecting who we are on the court, too. And I like Anthony Davis, but I just, in my opinion, honestly, I know I'm going off into another tangent here, but his game, he's never going to really be a great winner until he gets his home life in order, because it looks like it's all in shambles. And it's funny to hear his answers and stuff, but ultimately, that boy needs a mentor, man. He needs a mentor. You know what I mean? He needs a mentor. And as far as I know, he lost his mom, he lost his grandmother, and that's really sad. But somebody needs to step up and be a mentor to him, somebody he can listen to, and just stabilize him. Because all the talent in the world, but if you don't get your home life right, you're going to struggle. You know, that's just how I look at it. So, that's all I got to say for this episode. I truly appreciate you for listening this long. Please make sure that you hit that notification bell. Please make sure that you comment, because ball is life. And please hang on towards the end of this video, because we have some other suggested videos that we know you will love. With that said, truly appreciate you. Truly thankful. Very humble. Much love. That somehow you never get over leaving